Is Barbarian. Barbarian is this latest horror film. This film is directed by, let me see his name here, Zach Kreger. Zach Kreger, people might know, he was a part of the Whitest Kids You Know. He even directed some films for them, like Miss March, by the way, which I never saw Miss March. That was like
it's not good.
Yeah, that's what I've heard. Which he did co-direct and co-write that movie as well. So he was part of that gang, that crew, directed some skits for the Whitest Kids You Know. And it kind of continues the trend that we've been seeing. A lot of comedy people venture into horror, like we see, of course, with Jordan Peele, who did that as well with his debut film, Get Out. Here you have his film, which is Barbarian, and it's starring Bill Skarsgård and Jejona Campbell. And so it's kind of a simple premise. And I think even the people who, did this movie, the director and, people who produced it, they said it's very important not to see the trailer, go in as cold as possible, because that really is going to enhance your your kind of ability, seeing the movie and being kind of surprised by it. So I think it's best that, people don't go, go in knowing as little as possible. I think it's kind of best.
The second I walked out of this movie, I straight up texted everybody I know that is even like a little bit of a fan of horror and said, just go see the movie. Don't look up a review. Don't look up a trailer. Just go. Yeah.
And I'm not even going to play a trailer for this. I usually play some kind of footage. But I'm not going to do that this time. I'm not going to show a trailer over while I'm talking. Just to kind of help people out. Just like I said, it's very important that you kind of just go in as cold as possible, I think. So I'm going to give you the basic setup. So the basic setup is you have this woman, and her name is Tess. And she's coming to Detroit for a job interview. While she's traveling to Detroit, she decides to stay in an Airbnb, in preparation for it. And I've only ever done an Airbnb once myself. I've only ever done it once. Have you ever done an Airbnb?
Yeah, when I was driving through the country after I transferred from my first duty station, most of the places I stayed in were in Airbnbs. And they do a really good job of tapping into a lot of that anxiety of it, because you get instructions on how to check in. Is like, hey, the key is going to be in this place, the lockbox code is such and such and such, and that just fear whenever you get there and suddenly the key's missing or the lockbox code doesn't work, and then you have to call somebody, and then you're in like the middle of nowhere in the middle of the night and you have to be on the phone with somebody, and they capture that anxiety really well. But the first big thing that happens is she sees the lockbox, it's empty, the key's gone, so she knocks on the door, and who else comes to the door but fucking Pennywise?
Yeah. So the situation happens where she kind of comes to the house, like you said, the key's not there. She ends up banging, knocking on the door, wakes him up. Comes to the door, Slender Man ass Bill Skarsgård is there, opens the door, and they kind of talk. While they start talking, they figured out, accident happened. They both double booked, had the place at the same time. And she's like, oh, shit, what am I going to do? Am I going to go to a hotel? Am I going to, stay here? And he's telling her, like, hey, listen, you don't want to kind of stay in your car overnight, not here, because it's a pretty bad neighborhood. And when you see it in the morning, you go like, oh, yeah, this is a shit neighborhood. Yeah. Oh, yeah, for sure.
And props to Zach Kreger, because when we initially pull up to the house, it's completely dark. It's really pouring rain. So we only see the silhouettes of these houses. We don't see how bad it is, because it looks like the set of the fucking Last of Us when we see it in the daytime.
Yeah. I mean, it's just completely, when you see it, it's I'm almost expecting, so this movie's in Detroit. For the Don't Breathe guy, for him to kind of come out, Stephen Lang. I almost expected him to show up. I was like, make this kind of a connected universe.
He's the fucking next door neighbor.
Yeah, I was expecting to see his house, his place, him kind of walk by or something like that. I mean, he's in Detroit. This movie's in Detroit. I was, they make this whole one big just cinematic universe.
Oh, dude, I would pay all the money to see that. The fucking Detroit cinema. Dude, you don't even need a cinematic universe. Detroit's just that shitty on its own.
Yeah, I mean, just do one big Detroit cinematic universe. Get the woman in this. Get the Don't Breathe guy. Get RoboCop. Get all them people. Get all them in one movie together. Do one big crossover.
Pretty sure a Chucky movie was set in Detroit at one point, so get him too. Fuck
Yeah,
it.
get all the major people that have ever been in Detroit and get them in here. Yeah, in one big movie. So yeah, you see that when you see it in the kind of the daytime. And you mentioned how well it's shot. I mean, there's a lot of great filming in this movie. Like this, like a POV shot that looks really great. There's a shot where they kind of go back and follow a person, like when you see them kind of shopping, which looks really awesome. Is why I love what they do with that shot. Yeah, it is shot.
For a second-time director and in a first horror feature, Zach Cregger handles this with a maturity and a skill that I don't think we've really seen out of a comic filmmaker transitioning over to horror since Jordan Peele.
Yeah. And it's very impressive. I mean, very, very impressive stuff. And when you see that Tess and Bill Skarsgård's character, whose name in this movie is Keith, you see him and you think it's like, kind of this, nice meet cute kind of situation. And the tension kind of is building.
Yeah, they play it so beautifully because initially Bill Skarsgård's Keith is kind of like dancing a little bit of the line of that, like that nice guy that we've heard so much about. And when I initially saw the movie, I was like, shit, I already know I'm in a horror movie, so I'm expecting some fucked up shit to happen. And also, he's Bill fucking Skarsgård. We know him from playing Pennywise, so it's like a brilliant piece of stunt casting. But the longer that that situation goes on, the more they get to talking, they actually have some nice, neat chemistry, which I think is like, you should not see a trailer for this because you might be tricked into thinking, you know what, this might just be a cute rom-com.
Yeah. And as things start to kind of develop more and more, you kind of see it because like, what's going to happen is when is the other shoe going to drop? And I think that's played really nice. The setup is really great. And where that kind of leads to of like what this movie's truly about is also really great and keeps you kind of engaged with it. And also kind of these kind of different stories that are happening. And then kind of, it's like almost like these different stories, that kind of cut off at one point. Then you go to a different one, and then that's how it connects back to the original story that you were watching, which I also thought was really good as well. I thought that was really fascinating how they kind of did that in the movie.
Yeah, in less capable hands, that kind of structure would have come off as cloying or really annoying. But what Cregger does is he has every single one of these flashbacks. They do tie in beautifully, and it's not so much of like a twist movie. It's just adding more context to stuff you've already seen and adding like another element that you really weren't thinking about before. It's not so much a twist. It's just giving you new pieces of information to enhance your viewing experience.
Yeah. And kind of like watching that. So I thought that was really nice, the way they told that stories in kind of these different kind of segments. One of those segments does involve Justin Long, who is an actor in LA.
Who's like in the trailer for like one frame of it, just looking scared.
Yeah. Justin Long, he's been, horror veteran. He's been in quite a bit of horror movies, like Jeepers Creepers, like Tusk, like that other movie, Drag Me to Hell.
We don't need to talk about. We don't need to talk about that.
Yeah, but he was really good in Drag Me to Hell, Jeepers Creepers. Very good in those movies.
And it's so funny to think about Justin Long because he is kind of like I think at this point a horror scream king. Where when he was younger, he was kind of playing a lot of those like shy, nerdy characters, like kind of innocent. And now he's aged out of that and he's switched to just playing an asshole. And he does it so beautifully here. It's a great performance. He's a despicable character, and I don't want to give away the why, but he plays it so well and so charming that it's kind of frightening because we've all like known and been around people like this.
Yeah. He's a typical, Hollywood actor, kind of asshole guy. And you see how his story kind of plays into things because he owns a bunch of properties in Detroit, and one of them being the home that the two main characters are staying in here in the Airbnb. So that forces him, to kind of come back and kind of see what's going on. So there's a lot of kind of good stuff kind of happening here with this story. And like I said, so you've heard a lot of praise about this movie. Maybe it's the best horror movie of the year. I do think it's very good. And when you look at kind of a lot of the horror movies that have come out this year, like Scream or X or Pearl that we're about to talk about, and maybe even Bodies, if you want to throw that in there as well, as a movie, or Nope. This is very good. I want to have recency bias of say that it's the best one I've seen this year. I got to maybe, have some time to reflect. Maybe when we do our best of list, and I kind of throw in that maybe I'll discuss like whether this is the best horror movie. But this is very good, and this is very well done, and the performances are really good. And a lot of is also with the character of Tess, who's Georgina Campbell. She does a fantastic job, and she does a lot of things that make a lot of sense throughout the movie. I think that's also helps.
She's probably one of the smartest horror characters ever, because every single thing that you're thinking that, why are you even going into the house? You should just like not go in there. She's already thought of that and is actively trying to do it. Even like the initial scene with Bill Skarsgård, she's doing like all the right things. She's not taking a drink that she didn't see he prepared. She's like taking a picture of his ID whenever she gets a chance to.
Yeah.
Like all the smart moves. She's like calling hotels right away to try and get out of that house. But, it's...
Yeah.
Eventually, the smart choice is to stay in the house.
Yeah. I don't know. I think I still would have just went to the hotel.
Smart
choice. You know what I mean? I still think I would have been like, it's double booked. Fuck it. I'll just go to a hotel. Maybe I get my money back later for the Airbnb. Maybe I would have done that. I don't know.
No, they gave a reason that why she can't get a hotel. That actually makes sense.
Oh, right.
And I think that's like a thing with Zach Kreger, who is a comedy writer, was to make fun a lot of these tropes. He's kind of thought around them.
Yeah, because I think the big thing was like there was like a convention in town, right? Like, yeah, so a lot of them booked up. Yeah. There was like a big convention happening during the event. So I do like her character a lot, and like I said, she does a lot of things that do make sense, and that's always important to have in a horror movie, of following a character that, hey, they're doing not dumb shit, you know what I mean? Like, so you're able to really help sympathize with them kind of going through this, because, hey, they're making logical decisions, they're trying their best to kind of make it. I think that always, kind of endears you to the audience when you kind of have a situation like that. So a character like that. So I thought that was very good. Bill Skarsgård, who's in this movie, again, playing on the fact that he has played a villain in the past, and because he's got a certain look to him, you know what I mean? Being Pennywise, I think he does a very good job, kind of playing on that a little bit. And it's like, is he a good guy? Is he not a good guy? Kind of like, you don't kind of really know fully, until you really see the movie, and, that kind of gets revealed to you, which I thought was very good. Then there's kind of some, like I said, Justin Long, I thought he was kind of pretty good playing that asshole character, and kind of how, I guess if you want to bring in some broader themes of this movie, of, looking at the different men that are in this movie and how it all kind of plays together, that's also very interesting to talk about. And I'd love to kind of discuss that with people and see that kind of discourse kind of evolve. But yeah, I think this movie does a good job at really with the tension and where is this movie going to go, and where is the story going to evolve into. I think it really keeps you on the edge of your seat. I mean, it's the kind of definition of like keeping you on the edge of your seat with a movie like this, of like, man, what's going to happen next? And as it keeps going and going and going, I think that it keeps getting better and better. There are some things I will say that, it being a horror movie, there are some horror tropes here of like, you have the character who knows everything. Like you have one character who's just like, they have all this, they can just throw out all this exposition. How do they know all this stuff? I don't really know, but you know what I mean? They just do. I thought that was a little common horror trope type thing there. What did you do you have any kind of issues like that in the movie for you?
For me, when I first saw the movie, I kind of had those same issues, but I think, just by the nature of what's going on in this house, and, with I'm trying to be as vague as possible. There are certain things that imply that this has been going on for a long time. So it kind of makes sense that it would become this like urban legend and people would like start rumors or learn about it.
Okay. Yeah. But yeah, and you look at this house, like, and the fact that this is this house amongst all these other houses where she just keeps driving, it's like all of them, which is destroyed, demolished.
I'm
Yeah.
pretty sure I walked through there playing The Last of Us.
I mean, yeah, I mean, it's just,
I'm surprised I didn't. I'm surprised I didn't hear like a clicker walking around there.
and it's, I mean, it's, yeah, because even when, Tess goes to her job interview and the person that's interviewing goes, oh, wait, where are you staying? Like,
Yo, you gotta get the yo,
yeah.
you gotta get the fuck out of there.
Yeah, I mean, she's like, yeah, girl, you gotta, yeah. I mean, if you say so, I mean, I wouldn't be there, but hey, if you say so. But yeah, so I like a lot of the elements of this movie. Like I said, except for some of the horror tropes that they kind of have in here, it's not really, I don't think, too bothersome. I still think it's still a very enjoyable movie there. But I would give it a very strong tune in for me. What about you?
I've said before and I say it again. I Horror is probably one of my favorite genres. However, I have a love-hate relationship with most horror movies. And a lot of those are because of those tropes that you keep mentioning, like having a bunch of characters that are just kind of bland meat bags that we're waiting to get killed, or having like very clunky exposition, or having themes that, wow, that's really on the nose there, guy. How brave of you. But with this film, I think that the themes it touches on are very timely, very brilliantly told, and not exactly hitting you over the head with them. I think the performances by Georgina Campbell, Justin Long, and Bill Skarsgård. These are all incredible actors, and this the filmmaking on its own, just how the movie like uses like shadows, how the movie uses darkness, because for a long time, similar to like Bodies, a lot of it is just filmed with flashlight. It's like flashlight in pitch black darkness, and the sound design is incredible in this. There's like I was like on the edge of my seat for the entire hour and 40 minutes. And the fact that this movie does bring in so many like different interconnecting stories, and the fact that it's seamless every single time. And something that we didn't mention, that the movie is very funny. There's a lot of like very darkly comic moments. A lot of it is courtesy of Justin Long, that it's not it's not like it's not like the way Marvel does it, where it's just a silly joke to cut tension. It does do that, but some weird shit is about to happen even as you're laughing at the film, which just, man, balancing that and just the fact that I had the most fun in a horror movie watching this movie this entire year. I gotta give this is cinema. I loved this movie. I cannot wait to see it again.
Yeah. Yeah, I would love to see it again myself. I think this was really enjoyable to watch and see kind of everything unfolds. Yeah, I had some small
Yeah,
issues.
I'm a little mad because I'm a little mad because I saw it sans crowd at like a matinee, and I want to see this with a full theater reacting to it.
Yeah. Yes, like I said, besides for the few issues like with the horror trope stuff, and then, you know, just dealing with how grounded is this movie supposed to be, dealing with kind of some of the things in it. I'm like, okay, how grounded is it?
I know exactly what you're talking about, but without giving it away, that's when I was like, okay, go off.
Yeah, so I think so that was kind of some of my kind of smaller issues with it, but yeah, I mean overall fantastic film. Yeah, and hey, comedy guys, they should do more horror. Yeah, it seems to be a good kind of mix. Comedy guys kind of doing some horror. Maybe it's because maybe the good kind of thing is like comedic people, like you said, they can point out, you know what I mean, all the goofy stuff that happens in horror movies, so they know how to avoid those kind of pitfalls. Maybe.
Yeah, even comedy guys, and I think in the case of Zach Kreger and Jordan Peele, sketch comedy guys, because a lot of their sketches, at least for Jordan Peele's, I didn't watch a lot of Whitest Kid You Know. A lot of them were making fun of a lot of tropes in horror and a lot of conventions of those kinds of movies.
Yeah. So when you can really make fun of something, really dissect it, that comedy. You know what I mean? Like you
Yeah,
do
when
kind of.
you understand, yeah, you can't make a joke about something unless you really understand the minutia of what you're making fun of. That's why movies like the 21 Jump Street films or like Into the Spider-Verse work so well, because guys like Lord Miller, they know that genre and that subject matter inside and out. It's why Edgar Wright movies are so brilliant in that
Yeah.
way.
It's why something like Lego Batman. It's like what made that really great. It's actually Lego Batman is actually maybe one of the best Batman movies because it understands Batman better than maybe any other Batman movie. But yeah, so yeah, big, yeah. I thought Barbarian, big surprise, came out of nowhere, and just swept people off their feet. I like a movie like that.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
yeah, and was number one the week it came out, and and I'm shocked that it's getting as much traction and as much word of mouth as it is.
Yeah, so hey, that's big up to that movie. Very good. I like movies like that. They just kind of wasn't on my radar at all, and hey, it's a big hit. So that is awesome. All right, that was Barbarian. Two strong, well, actually one strong tune in and one This Is Cinema.